All right, guys, very special feature here for you. We have, of course, my co-host Big Simp. We have two of the biggest members of a big community in speedrunning. Majora's Mask hype in the house. Lots of stuff been going on in the community. We want to get right to it. MajinPhil, I'm going to let you, fill in everyone on what's going on. What's all this talk going about? Come on, let us know.
So, a couple months ago, a debug menu was discovered in Majora's Mask that essentially lets you write items into your inventory. And it had huge implications on the speedrun because instead of having to go and get the required items to beat the game as fast as possible through the actual, temples and getting the necessary items to complete the temples quickly and all that stuff, all you have to do is do the trick that lets you bring up the debug menu, which is known as a text overflow glitch, which we can go into a little more detail after. And you write the required items into your inventory, which are the 4 boss remains and the oath to order, so you can access the final boss. And then we also give ourselves some extra bombs and bomb chews and the fierce deity mask to speed it up a little as well, and then just complete the game significantly faster than by actually going through it. So as far as looking at how much it improved the any percent runtime by, the old record used to sit at around 1 hour and 15 and a half minutes, and now the record is under 50 minutes, almost 48 minutes. So it's saved over 25 minutes on the 100% run.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy. It also affects the 100% speed run. A lot of people have the assumption that just because you can give yourself all the items, it's kind of killing the game. But the 100% run also has a source requirement, meaning that the items that are considered key items for the run need to be collected from their original source, like you would in a normal playthrough. And the only thing you can use the debug menu for in the run is to speed up that process. So anything that requires, collecting items in order to receive a key item, like for example, Skulltula tokens to receive a mask or Stray Fairies to receive a fairy reward, you can give yourself those ahead of time, and it speeds things up by, not having to run around and collect them. You just have to go get the final reward from the original source. So pretty big discovery overall.
Yeah. That is huge. The biggest thing I've heard of in speedrunning, like just hearing about it, I just started laughing because it was the most absurd thing that I think I've ever seen in a speedrun. And just the idea that you guys had to talk about, should save states be allowed in a run? So could you explain that? Like, I don't understand how there's save states with the debug.
Okay. So basically, within the Wii U, there's like a virtual console menu, and you can give yourself a restore point on Wii U for like any game. It's not just MM, but it's not like an external thing. It's already made within the console itself. So basically, we were deciding on whether or not that was going to be allowed within speedruns because it's already included in the console. So the debate was, okay, well, since it's included, should we just allow it, or is this dumb to have save states in the speedrun? Like, I don't know.
So it's like in the system, but they don't want anyone to ever do that themselves, right? It wasn't intended for a user to do that, right?
No, it was intended. It actually is intended. I don't know why they put that in there. I mean, like,
restore points are a native feature to the Wii U Virtual Console menu.
Right.
We should also point out that this trick right now, as it stands, is exclusive only to the Wii U Virtual Console, and that's a big change because originally we were playing on the Wii Virtual Console, and the difference between basically the N64, the Wii, and the Wii U is the debug menu, as of right now, can only be used in a speedrun and applied on the Wii U because the debug menu can only be D-pad is not mapped on the Wii Virtual Console version of the game. So you can actually access the debug menu on Wii Virtual Console, but you can't maneuver the menu, so you can't give yourself any of the required items. And on N64, when you try to do the setup, it actually crashes the game.
Okay.
And so the only version where it doesn't crash the game and you can use the menu with the D-pad because it's mapped is on the Wii U Virtual Console. And so it just so happens that this version also comes with that restore point feature. And setting up a restore point takes a lot of time. It's a thing that takes a few seconds to set up when you do it. And so the argument was, should they be allowed? Because it's technically not going to benefit a top runner. It's only going to benefit a beginner runner, since it's something that people can use to start from a certain point without having to reset their game. But, obviously there's the other side of that, like should save states be allowed in a speedrun? It seems a little bit silly, right?
Yeah, that could open a can of worms, right? If you have now you can do save states in speedrunning because is that doing something just because it's easier? Which I know that's not inherently bad, but is that just doing something because it makes it easier and that's something we should look to do?
I think it's like a positive thing that could come of that is it would be beneficial for someone trying to learn the game. Like if they're trying to just play through the run and make these save states get through the run, that would be beneficial. But the other counter argument to that is, well, it's basically just a tool for practice that you can use. You don't really need to be using it in a full run itself, even though it's included within the native features of the Wii U. It's still not something that would typically be used in a speedrun. I don't know.
I could think of one situation, let's say there was a really specific trick that saved, let's say 15, 20 minutes that required an extremely precise frame perfect setup. And you could use save states. Technically, it would be beneficial to make a save state right before attempting that trick and then reloading the state and trying it over and over again until you nailed that specific precise setup, right? And even if you failed it a dozen times, it would still be faster than not doing the trick at all, considering it'd save a lot of time. So, there's a lot of situations like that where a save state would change what you would and wouldn't do in a speed run because it has less of a risk to go for it since you can just try it again, right?
Mm-hmm. That is interesting. Now, I do want to talk more about the save state thing and the discussion there, but I do want to rewind over back to the debug menu. So debug menu is in play. Wii U VC is now the version that people are on. So how are people feeling about it, Popesquidward? What is the community's thoughts? What are your thoughts?
It's initially kind of a crisis for the community because there are some big downsides to the Wii U. Even though it's faster because of this big glitch, it adds on almost a full second to each load, each load zone that you go through.
Okay.
The input delay is, I don't know the exact number, but it is
4 millisecond input delay.
As opposed to, what is it, 2 for Wii VC or something? Or less?
It's
less than that? Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's something that you could get used to, but it's very not ideal compared to what we're already used to playing on. It's pretty much an objective thing to say that the Wii VC version is better. It's just better. The way it looks is better. When you play it on the TV, it's in a box. The resolution of the Wii U is not stretched correctly on the TV. It's literally a box that you're looking at. Everything is vertical and
20% of the screen just has black around.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. Majora's Mask for the longest time just had the best any percent category for completing all the dungeons. You get to see most of the game. The Wii VC thing is cool. And then all of a sudden we find this big thing and we're all playing on Wii U and there's input delay and there's a bunch of load zone lag and we have to do lag reduction stuff now. When we're on the moon going into Majora, we have to be facing away from the tree because it is literally just a PowerPoint slideshow trying to go into Majora now. It is pretty ridiculous.
How is that possible?
It's just I don't know what happened with how they downgraded from Wii VC to Wii U, but it is just something, and it's definitely caused a lot of conflict with.
It's not only that too; it's the fact that it also, the game just also looks visually terrible because the Wii U Virtual Console has a darkness filter added to it for epileptic reasons, so to prevent seizures. So when you play the game, it's just dark, and because Majora's Mask is a dark game, just normally it just looks so bad. Sometimes you can't even see anything because it's just.
I've had so many people we open up the debug menu and there's 2 different kinds of debug menu you can open up. There's a lighter and darker version for some reason, and the dark version is so dark that you have to get right next to your TV to look at what's going on.
You can't see anything, and it's also just to add on to the whole bad loading zones, the horrific input delay. It makes you feel like you're sluggish playing underwater. We also, you know, don't have the. You can use an adapter to play with a GameCube controller, but from what I've heard, it's not a very good adapter and it doesn't play very well. So we've been using classic controller pros, which aren't as good as GameCube controllers. So it doesn't feel as nice to play, just because that controller, not only in my opinion is it less ergonomic, but also it just doesn't handle the same when it comes to, like, you know, seeing Link's motions and, like, you know, having full control over the character.
Yeah.
But also the pause buffering is a huge issue. One of the big things in Majora's Mask is frame perfect tricks and cutscene skips. And so, you know, just to give a quick rundown on cutscene skips, cutscenes typically take 2 consecutive frames in a row to activate for some reason. And the way you buffer and skip cutscenes is you advance 1 frame at a time, never allowing the game a 2-frame window to start that cutscene. So if you trigger a loading zone without the cutscene starting, it'll overpower the cutscene from starting and just load the area that you enter. And so the problem with Wii U is that you don't have control over how many frames advance in between a pause buffer. And so sometimes you get 1 frame, but sometimes you get more than 1 frame. And so all the cutscene skips that rely on that technique are just gone. You can't do them. So it literally prevents being able to do a lot of frame perfect tricks like you can on the Wii Virtual Console. On Wii Virtual Console, it's really good. You can do really consistent pause buffering.
It's basically a glitch that is... It has just made the run so fast, but has taken away so many other small increments of time save, like cool increments of time save. Like, you can't really skip cutscenes anymore. You can't do any sort of there is a way to buffer called VC menu buffering, and basically you can buffer. There's 2 different kinds of frames. There's input frames and there's visual frames. And on Wii U VC, you can't buffer a visual frame, but you can buffer an input frame. And there's 3 input frames per visual frame. So, like, to advance 1 frame, you need to do the VC buffering 3 times in a row, and it's like already making it slower, and it's just
and
wow.
That even can't be skip a cutscene because a VC menu buffer isn't pausing in the game.
Right.
So it wouldn't even work for a cutscene skip.
I gotta know, you guys are talking a lot about, obviously community is about the runners and stuff, and you guys talk about the runners' difficulties. But I know another voice that I like to bring up a lot here is the viewers' voices. And the viewers are kind of showing their displeasure for sure, I think is the main. A lot of people don't like it for sure. I think is the kind of the main opinion out there, saying they're ruining any percent. You know, it's like, you know, any percent is done. I don't like watching this anymore. Do you guys take any, you know, credence in that? Is there any... There's some importance there too, as you guys make a living playing this game online. So there has to be some kind of thought to that too, right? Is this, you know, what are you guys' thoughts about that? What the community thinks about how this is to watch? Is it any fun anymore to watch?
I actually think it is.
It's kind of like a thing where right now it's fun to do something kind of different. Like, it kind of sucks to play on the console itself, but like just like doing another run and getting new splits and doing that is like, I still have fun. Like, Phil and I have had fun playing through any percent recently, and it's not as fun I can see from a viewer standpoint. It is something new to watch, but it's kind of like, because of the input delay and how bad the controls are, it's kind of like watching 2 top runners start the game all over again, because we have like no control over our characters anymore. So it's like it's pretty funny, but I do have to say that, like, a lot of the viewers, I would agree, they're not very happy with, like, the find, I guess. But like, in the end, it is, for something like any percent, that's just how speedrunning goes, and whether or not it's fun or not, I mean, or whatever, I mean, like, that's just how it is with any percent. For other categories, it's a bit more arbitrary. Like, you can have your own set of rules, which is what, like, we've already discussed with people. But yeah, we're kind of just like trying to find the most entertainment that we can with the run.
Sure.
I mean, at the end of the day, it definitely, you know, I can empathize with viewers, and, you know, they watch a run because of its entertainment value and stuff. But when it comes to the implications of a speedrun, you know, you can't really take entertainment value into consideration. The only thing you can really do about that is preserve what the runners enjoy playing the most, because ultimately that is what ends up creating a fundamental community of people being active and competitive, right? And also facilitating growth at the same time. But the thing about the run is, an any percent run is an any percent run. Just because the trick makes the run boring doesn't mean you can't throw it in. That's incorrect. That's an illogical perspective. It's objectively faster. You have to do it in an any percent run. That's the whole point, right? It's beat the game as fast as possible without any restrictions. That's what it means. Mm-hmm. So, you can't just say, oh, it's boring to watch, we can't throw the glitch in there. Like, it sucks that it's boring, but that's at the end of the day what it means to do an any percent speed run. So it has to be in, regardless of entertainment value and what people may or may not find boring, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on that topic of any percent, you guys as a community came to a vote. Can you expand on the vote and what is ultimately now the way that it goes? Like, you have any percent, you have all dungeons. So if you want to go on that, MajinPhil.
Yeah, so the text overflow glitch was the trick that allows us to prompt up the debug menu. And the text overflow glitch had a huge discussion in the community because it's got a lot more potential than just a debug menu. Because, to quote my buddy Imbued, the text overflow glitch is something that we can use to reach unintended index values, which point to longer than intended soar destinations. So the way you do text overflow is you play Song of Soaring multiple times in a row, over and over again, and the destination message ends up overlapping each other, and you get this text overflow at the bottom. You can literally see the text overflowing at the bottom whenever you play the song over and over again. And so it takes up more space in memory than the game dedicates to displaying the message in the current text box that you see when you're on the soaring menu. And this causes the following parts of memory to get overwritten. So you can basically write, your own index value and execute it using the glitch. And so this particular setup executes the debug menu, but there is a lot more that can be done using the glitch in the future, probably, that allows us to execute different situations, maybe even warps or whatever. It's something that, I guess it's been in discussion that could even lead to arbitrary code execution potentially. Mm-hmm. It's like the ultimate trick. And so, that being said, the text overflow glitch. Where was I going with that? I was literally about to.
Well, I was going to say something about like how the leaderboards are constructed.
So, yes.
So,
yes.
Right now we decided to have an unrestricted and a no text overflow, like glitchless tab. So there's like 3 of those tabs. And so the unrestricted is basically you're able to use the debug menu for any percent, 100%, like whatever. And then no text overflow is basically what we were doing before on Wii VC. And then like glitchless is glitchless. So right now you like open up speedrun.com and then it just automatically opens up with unrestricted any percents. And then you can like tab over to no text overflow, any percent, blah, blah. But that's basically what we decided to do. As of right now, there was a debate on whether or not we should do like a console split like Mario does too. And
I personally love that. By the way,
I would too.
Honestly, awesome.
I think it'd be that might level things out a bit more, because like when you open up the leaderboard right now, it shows unrestricted any percent, and it has like 9 times. Like 9 different people have submitted, because only that many people have done a run of it so far. Mm-hmm. So like it looks like the game is like nothing's happening with the game because there's like no times on it when you open it up.
That's really weird looking.
It is.
I just think I also just on that particular note think it's really strange to compare 2 different consoles or 3 different consoles on the same leaderboard when they each have significant differences when it comes to playing them.
Right.
It's like you can't compare Wii VC Mario 64 to N64 Mario 64. It's it's not apples and apples, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I don't know. My perspective on it is I think Pope feels the same way about it. We're definitely in that particular point of view, but right now, it's basically if you see NTO after a category, so any percent NTO means any percent no text overflow, which is the traditional, more classic any percent now, I guess, if you want to call it that, the one without the debug menu. which is the one Pope was running for a long time, and then any percent just unrestricted. You don't have to put unrestricted. I think that's kind of funny because any percent kind of implies it's unrestricted. So I don't see the reason to have the word there. It's just my own personal opinion, but like, you know, the fact that it says it's basically anything goes. Yeah.
And in terms of like 100% unrestricted, it says unrestricted, but it's also
Restricted.
It's restricted in the way that you still have to get items from their source. So like, it's not really unrestricted 100%. No, it's kind of complicated, but like it's not. It's just so arbitrary on every single like method of thinking about it that like there's just it's hard to say if there's even a right answer for all this.
It just feels like if you did a console split and you just had so there's 4 versions that are official releases. There's the GameCube, there's the N64, there is the Wii, and there's the Wii U. And the GameCube version is almost unplayable. It's a very, very
it's probably worse.
Unstable. It's the worst version. Yeah, it's worse than Wii U. Like it can literally just crash randomly at any point because it's so bad. But it also the debug menu is actually removed in that version, so that version isn't even feasible for the fastest potential route. Neither is N64 and Wii because of the previous, things I mentioned, like the D-pad not being mapped and the setup crashing on N64. But I think if you had a console split, people would have accessibility in the sense that they can speedrun whichever version they want. If they want to run on N64, they pick that and they, submit to the N64 leaderboard. If they want to play on Wii Virtual Console, they play on that one, and they don't have to put any percent no text overflow. They put any percent for the Wii.
I think that would be a good idea too, because like it would make things a bit more accessible for people depending on what they have.
Right.
So like it would make it so that people feel like, oh, I can play on N64 and still be competitive with
right
other
now,
people that want to play on N64. Even though N64 is garbage to play on for the game, it's like if you have it, like you can still be competitive because like there's an entire leaderboard like dedicated to that. That's why I think like the way that Mario has it is pretty.
It's down packed. Yeah, and then you pick one of the consoles to be the headliner console, just like N64 is for Mario. Right. It's pretty straightforward. And then the other thing is that right now, in terms of leaderboards and accessibility, if you want to play the fastest version, you got to get your hands on a Wii U in 2019. Nobody wants to buy a Wii U in 2019.
Yes.
Like, it's so stupid.
Someone said that like Mario Maker was going to be the last like finishing blow on Switch to like finish off the Wii U, and then all of a sudden there's this glitch that's found and like people are like getting Wii U's to like play the game. I don't know, dude.
So like, I can see when you guys both got great. MajinPhil is the world record holder right now in this category. Yesterday he did, or 2 days ago. Yesterday I think. Popesquidward, you're 3 seconds behind, so you're right there too. And you obviously, MajinPhil, when you got it, you could see your emotion. It meant a lot to you to get this world record for sure. You could tell when you're watching. But. Go ahead. You don't think so? You weren't as emotional.
It was bittersweet. You're on a game for as long as I've been running to have the record, even if it's for a short period in time. It's nice. It's a good feeling because it's like you feel like you finally got it. But at the end of the day, I was also carried heavily by a really, really big glitch, and at the same time, it's also the fact that the record at the moment was very unoptimized and still remains very unoptimized. It can be beaten probably by another like 30 seconds, if anything. And so, I also have to attribute to the fact that right now, not all the top runners are actively running the category. It's myself and Pope, and then Enop's taking a break. He's on that WoW Classic train right now. And I'm sure, I have no doubt in my mind that if he was currently active and running the game, we probably would see a 48 by now. Right now, the record's 49.05. And I would like to safely say that we probably have a 48 by now. So it's bittersweet. It's nice to have the record, but at the same time, it's something that is easy to get at the moment because of how unoptimized it is and fresh.
So that's kind of how I feel as well. Like even if I did end up getting it, it would be a bit bittersweet because I've been trailing this record for so long that all of a sudden with this huge glitch, it's like, yeah, that'd be cool to have it, but like it's not really the same exact thing. Like it's not the same project that I had before.
Yeah. And that's what I was about to ask. That's what I'm asking, brought this up for, because splitting consoles, I know that makes it more accessible and stuff, but doesn't that also, by some percentage, dilute the epicness of each world record when you do that, right? Because let's be real, Mario, like you said, has 2 categories. Their console is split, but you know what the big dog is. You know what I mean? So when you get that, Wii U version of 64, whatever, the 3DS 364 record, it doesn't mean as much, right? So is there any credence to that? Should we think about that as well to keep it, kind of make it mean a lot when you get that record? You know what I mean?
So quick question actually. So what was the reason that Mario 64 ended up putting the N64 version as the headliner for competitive Mario?
Simp got this one.
So it dates back to when the Japanese were the top. They didn't have easy access to a VC that had non-Shindu version, which is like the IQ version of the game. So their Wiis had BLJs patched and stuff. So to play the game properly, they played on N64, and then players like Siglemic eventually came through and were able to compete with the Japanese, but they weren't, like, they didn't know that they were saving so much time, and when that was discovered, they realized, like, okay, well, if I want to compete on an even playing field and know for sure that I am better or I beat his time, I'll play on N64. And then that just has sort of been the tradition, but it's also sort of like, it feels the best, You guys, I've heard that N64 for Majora's Mask is really clunky, like it just doesn't play that well.
Yeah.
And for Mario 64, it just feels the best. Like I've played on emulator, I've played on VC, and
I've played
the best.
And it does feel the best, and it's also the most accessible too. Like you can just use like your childhood N64 in the cartridge, and you're good. Like that's all you need.
So that it almost seemed like it was an accessibility thing.
Yeah.
That caused it, and over time it became the standard. Just after enough people started hopping onto that train. So, to answer the question of whether or not, if you did a console split, like, wouldn't it dilute the leaderboards, which is a fair question. I think that is determined based on time. It's something that competitiveness and activity and seeing what is the highest played game or version of the game would ultimately lead to a main competitive version, right? Because that's what happened to Mario. It didn't just happen overnight. It took a long time for that N64 to establish itself as the primary version to speedrun on. And so I think, if you start a console split, you start it, and then over time you start to develop a trend in which one ends up being the most played version. And I think that ultimately is the flagship of the whole community of like, oh, this is the one we play on.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's a good way to put it. So now you're in this sort of rift. You're in limbo. You're in a weird position. The new glitch has been found. I just want to clarify quick. So with Wii U VC, the only reason it's faster is because of the glitch. Like it's actually slower than VC, assuming everything was the same.
Yeah.
Right. Like basically everything is slower except for the glitch. Like
okay.
and the glitch even works on Wii VC. You just can't navigate it because of the D-pad. Like they just didn't have D-pad.
If they map the D-pad on Wii VC, we'd have the God version.
Yes.
We
literally would.
It'd be good.
So go ahead.
Go ahead, Sam. You.
Okay, a little thought thing. So the adapters are banned. Like remapping, all remapping is banned in Majora's Mask, right? That's the only thing that's really stopping you from having that perfect version.
Yeah, so I mean, you could there's been talk about making a version of Majora's Mask for the Wii that has the D-pad mapped to use the debug menu on the Wii Virtual Console. It actually exists already.
It does exist.
But then that poses the question, like, is it really okay to do that to play on an unofficial release of the game? Like that's kind of
that's like an
fine
area
line
of playing on like an emulator or something. Like it's not an official release of the game, and it's like, where do we draw the line at that point?
Yeah,
and I'm personally pretty purist in that regard. Like I think if you're gonna play the game, it has to be an official release of the game. Like you put the game on, you turn it on, and you start and play it, and there's no modifications. That's it. It's just the game.
I think
that's.
Yeah, I had 2 questions that come up here. I want to ask the first one to kind of lead up to it. So I want to know, we should ask it before, but who found this and how did they find this? Because it's not something you just, I'm running the walls and I found a clip. That's not how it works with this kind of stuff. So this was obviously dug up through the data and stuff. How was this found exactly?
I'm not actually too sure. There was a bunch of people that played a role in it. I believe Mr. Cheese, Exodus, and Fash were the 3 responsible for ultimately, making it to what it is now. And they're really savvy when it comes to messing around with values and stuff. It's done on emulator.
Yeah, Exodus actually found a quip swap as well. I think it was him that found it, but that's the trick that allows you to like duplicate like pose and OOT or duplicate eggs and MMs. So like between both of those, that's some pretty big finds.
Definitely.
For Zelda.
Yeah, so why I asked that is because we're entering a world now, and I want to give WQ was talking about this, and I think it's worth talking about because the farther we get in the future, right, the easier it is going to be finding this kind of stuff, right? Like this is just the beginning of what's going to happen because the more time we have with these games, you never know. Someone could find like in Super Mario Brothers, if you push these 15 buttons in a row and run into this pipe, it's game over, and that's the 100% record is ruined, right? Not ruined, but it's just changed. I guess I should say. So I think really it's going to be interesting in the future to see how we break up these leaderboards because I think they're going to get even bigger in the future. You know what I mean?
To add to that, I really think that at the end of the day, the way leaderboards are created and handled over time, there always will have to be some kind of split and some kind of dominant category and you have to preserve the integrity of categories to keep them entertaining for people that run them. Because why would you run something if it's a completely, mundane thing to do? Like if it has nothing interesting about it, there's no point in playing it. There's a reason why people actively start playing these games, right? But when it comes to a specific category like any percent, just a purist any percent category, those categories are typically very prone to degeneracy over time. If you look at a lot of video games, those categories are now very meme-y categories because the tricks get found over the years and they become 2-minute speedruns or 1-minute speedruns. Like you can look at A Link to the Past as a very good example. It's like a 2-minute run that requires like a bunch of frame perfect inputs. Or Mario 64 Zero Star is the true any percent run in Mario 64. And it's just a bunch of BLJs and you go beat the game, right? So you guys did in that particular case, and you did a good job in preserving all the other categories and making sure that those integrities were kept intact, like 120 star, 70 star, and 16 star as an example, right? So I think it's inevitable over time. Those things end up happening. Ocarina of Time right now is down to 16 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Who knows what else is going to be found in the future to lower that time. Something for sure will come up at some point, just like Majora's Mask got this trick. And so in my opinion, it's an inevitability that any percent becomes that way. But over time, I think it's important to establish certain leaderboard splits in categories to preserve the entertainment value for new people that play it so that it keeps being competitive and keeps having people, enter the community and stuff.
That was really well said. That's definitely like you're making me think about it differently because when that came about, the debug menu, I was thinking, man, that's got to be banned. That looks like garbage. That doesn't look fun. But I mean, that is the truth of speedrunning. Like
it does look like garbage.
It needs to be preserved. So on that topic, you have your any percent. You're having your fun. You're getting your records. But let's say a month down the line, a couple months, are you still going to be running this, or are you going to bring it back to the Wii VC? What's the plan? Popesquidward, take us away.
I have done a lot of thinking about this, and I honestly don't have a direct answer for that right now because I don't know what else could be found soon, or also like I don't know how the 100% with the debug menu is also going to go. I'm kind of interested in that. But in a perfect world, yes, I would love to just be back on the competitive Wii VC thing, but I am someone that does, I like to play the fastest version of each run, with the categories that have all these, no blah, blah, blah. It's it's just not really the same to me, I guess. I don't know if Phil feels the same way about that, but
I do to an extent. I mean, really what it comes down to is that at the moment, this is a novelty. It's very new, and people are kind of riding that hype train, right? Because when new shit is found, it's always really important to, show it off, I guess, to an extent, but also, show its potential and what it can do. But over time, because the category isn't exactly thrilling as a run, I mean, in this particular case, you're playing Song of Soaring 63 times in a row in the run. So it's like, you know, you have a 50-minute speed run, and to play 63 Song of Soarings takes about 10 minutes. So right there, 20% of your run is just playing Song of Soaring.
And it's like, where do you draw the line from what you like, what's fastest and what's actually fun? You know?
Yeah, the other 60% of the category is cutscenes, and then the other 20% is actually, you know, doing some pretty tough tricks. But like the right there, the integrity isn't really that crazy. I mean, that there isn't that much going on in that run to keep the longevity there. You know, you're not going to want to do that for months and months at a time. Like when I was playing 100%, I played 100% for 2 years. And the last time I did any percent before this was done, before this stuff went down, was 2017. Because I love how complex and how skill-based the 100% category is in Majora's Mask, and it still is, even with the debug menu. I've seen there's been a run of it done already, and it's wild. It's a really cool run. It actually uses the Sun Song in Majora's Mask, which normally you're not supposed to get, but it's actually something you can activate in the debug menu, and it has really cool feature. It speeds up the in-game time. It's cool, but the point is that like, you know, it's a novelty right now, and I think once that novelty wears off for the community as a whole, you'll always still have some diehard any percent runners. There's always going to be a small group of people that will always want to push that category to the lowest. There's still people running OOT any percent right now, even though I think that's a better run overall in general because it's very skill based. But you know, there's always going to be a diehard group of people that want to get that any percent time down as low as possible. But I think the bigger picture is that once the novelty wears off, people are going to start playing what they find themselves to be enjoyable. And ultimately, that is going to shape the competitiveness of the community and what people play more and more, because you'll see a trend in who plays what most and what category is most active and what's considered a main category, right? Because of number of players and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. You want to say something, Pope?
Okay.
Forgot it.
Pretty much said everything that I needed to say about that part of it, I think.
Okay.
I do have a follow-up for Pope and for Phil. So, any percent is a novelty, you know, eventually that's going to wear out. So, Pope was like grinding hard. You were on the cusp, as they say, of getting the world record in any percent, the original any percent. So, is that lost its magic? Like, if you go back and play that category now, it's not as appealing to you because this exists.
Yes, it's not as appealing to me because it's not really the fastest way to beat the game anymore, and that run is so cool. Like, you go through all the dungeons, the tricks are hard, the run is very good, but it is not really the same to me, and that's why this kind of hit me hard in a way, because I was like, man, I knew something would be found at some point, but this is like catastrophic for like what I was like working on for so long, you know? But in the end, it's like, that's just how speedrunning is, you know? And like, I decided, hey, I want to play the 80% category. And like, if that happens, anything can be found. Like, any percent means just beat the game from beginning to end as fast as possible, like plain and simple. So it does kind of like suck in a way, but in the end, that is just like kind of how it is. I do still want to like try and do that again.
You need closure on that 115, bro. You need to
I do.
You need to.
But yeah, in the end, that is kind of just how it is, I guess.
It's interesting how the goalposts move in speedrunning for sure, right? It's like, this is something that it's the height of the community is this number, right? When you get one, you know, for example, the famous world records out there, you know, Streets 112. Wow, what a number that was. And now Streets 112 is not that even hard to get, you know, that's how it goes.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
It's just how it's that's what makes it kind of cool, you know, you never know. Right, what's awesome now is not going to be awesome for 5 years, you know what I mean? And I also want to add, like, what's important though is also, it's what's important is different for a lot of different people, right? So if you think it's awesome, you know, I guess let's talk about this split of consoles. If someone out there gets the 3DS record on Nintendo 64, Mario 64, and you think that's awesome, right? It's like, you know, kind of what's important, like you said, Phil, is going to be decided by time and what the community finds important, and you'll see that over time. I think it's worth talking about. It's like what's important is decided by the people, and it's gone by feeling. It's not like something you decide, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is the best, so we're just going to do this. It's like, you'll see where the hype is and where the the interest lies in if you do split up the leaderboards, and you'll see, maybe people play Wii U version way more, maybe people play whatever. You'll see it happen naturally. You know what I mean? But before we finish, I want to talk. Unless you want to add anything to that, anything.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, when someone gets into speedrunning, they get into speedrunning because they find an appeal in it, and it's fun, And it almost sounds like it's like, oh, it's such a bad thing to say, like having fun with it is such a crime,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you wouldn't have started unless you found it fun and enjoyable, right? That's the point. The point is to do it because you enjoy doing it. And so if something kills that appeal and doesn't make it fun anymore to play, are you just going to play it for the sake of playing it? Or are you going to play something that you thoroughly enjoy playing regardless? Right? And I think that is what time itself will dictate when it comes to that stuff. Like, you'll start seeing people playing the stuff they have fun with, they enjoy, and that will promote and facilitate growth, I guess.
Good stuff.
And I think it's important to, like, recognize what the runners themselves would, like, I guess, prefer for, like, the speedrun, or to, like, prolong, like, the existence of the speedrun, because, like, without the runners, like, the runners are what build the community. Like, they're what make people come into Twitch or whatever, and they watch the speedrun of whoever's running, and they're like, wow, this is cool, like, this person's cool, the speedrun looks fun, they're making it look fun, blah blah blah. And if the runner's, like, not having fun with the new stuff, it's like, well, there goes the drive for, like, the community and whatnot. And it's like, where do we come up with that middle ground here, Because, like, in the end, we all would rather play on Wii VC and not Wii U. And it's just, like, such a weird situation for the game right now.
It's a big divide.
Yeah. Because there's people that want to preserve, like, the actual, like, rule set of the leaderboards and whatnot, and then there's others that are like, yeah, that's important, but the entertainment part of it and the fun aspect of it is even more important than that, because that's what's going to make the community grow even more, sort of thing, So it's like, it's kind of hard to, like, see where we'll draw that line, I guess. But yeah, that's basically what the whole like, debate stuff, like the voting and all that stuff, has been happening right now with that. But yeah, so
yeah, it's interesting because the community is who is running it. It's not like a fighting game like Street Fighter or something where they're deploying patches. They're making these decisions for the players. It's the players making the decisions for the players in speedrunning. And Mario 64 right now is doing the voting on, like, remapping because of frame walk. And that's just part of being in the community. You gotta come together, make the choices, and everyone has their own views and valid arguments for those views. And so it's just, I guess the important takeaway is that you have to at least come to some decision. And you guys came to this decision. Do you think that there might, in the future, perhaps, like, would you guys be down to do a vote for a console split, or are you like, it's not?
I would be all for that.
I would be all for a console split. I think that would be terrific.
Yeah.
And just because you have a console split, doesn't mean you can't have the all-time fastest time. You just run on the console that has that, right? Even if it's displayed on a separate console split leaderboard. And it would be very well organized too. Like, just when you look at Mario, the first thing you see at the top is the 3 different consoles. It's great. Do it the exact same way.
Interesting.
Good stuff there. I don't want to. Still on topic here for a little bit, but a little bit of a sideways move here. So Gdq submissions are going on right now. I can't say why they choose the games they choose, but this seems like a very high possibility chance of getting in if someone submits this category, just because it is so new, so hot, so memey. Any of you gentlemen interested, or is someone else going to do that for you?
Someone already did.
Okay.
Full-grown, our friend Full-Grown Gaming, AK Based Kyle, he submitted any percent with the glitch, and if it got in, it'd be so high.
I think it would be funny because, like, I ran any percent at the beginning of 2019 AGDQ, and then Phil ran it at SGQ for 100%, and then if this gets into, that would be hilarious. And then it would be so really funny. Good. I feel like it'd be so good for a marathon because you could do the restore points first of all.
Yeah,
like, you could have restore points, and the run is hilarious. Like you just play the songs, the crowd will be counting along, and then boom, everyone would just like freak out. So I don't know.
I think
it'd be funny.
I mean, we don't know why they choose the games they do, but I do not understand how this could not get in because it would just be so perfect. Cool, Maddie, you might be watching. Come on, you gotta let this one in, my friend. But okay, let's close this topic. Any last thoughts or comments you want to get out here before we change topics? Just for a last point here.
No, I think we covered pretty much all the ground.
Pope, MajinPhil, last closing.
Pretty good at that.
No, sounds pretty good.
Good about it. I think we covered everything.
Good point. Good stuff. Okay, so one last topic before we finish, though. I want to talk about, I'm going to read it to you, a series of tweets here that was on just a little short comment here. So this says, yeah, crowd control, something you guys are familiar with maybe. Crowd control is a thing that makes kind of fun ways to play the games and stuff. And they had a tweet that said, we're stoked to share that our AGDQ submissions are in. I want to be emphasized that our AGDQ submissions are in. We've been working with none other than Cheese and Andy Lasso to hopefully bring crowd control and interactive speedrunning to its first games done quick. Now, in response to this, there was a few people wondering, are they automatically in? Does that mean you guys are in? You know, you could bypass that. Grand Pooh Bear was quick to respond with no, they're not automatically in. They hope to get in with that. But I'll bring this up because I think it's interesting at this precedent of a group providing a run and choosing runners to do that run for them in the context of it is sort of promotion for their company, right? In a way. I'm not saying crowd control is being devious or anything like that. However, I'm talking in the future, this could set a precedent for that, right? If you on board with me so far, you know what I mean, right? Like crowd control gets money to do something. They handpick the runners they want to do their run and they submit it to GDQ. If a lot of people watch GDQ, a lot of people are going to know about crowd control. So what do you think about this group submission policy of a kind of a company? I don't know if it's actually a company, but it's an organization picking runners to do something that they choose and submitting it together. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I feel like anyone that submits to a GDQ, regardless of what it is, you're going to get exposure for it because, you know, you're presenting something to a massive group of people. And so whether it's a company or I mean, you could say the same thing about a person too. It doesn't have to be a company.
Good point.
Right? So the company doing it, maybe they want to do it because it'll raise money for charity and they also get a ton of exposure out of it. But that's the exact same, you know, mindset of someone who submits a run to GDQ also. They want to do a run in front of all those people. So, I mean, is it different for a company than for a person?
Good question. A good question back. Pope, any thoughts? Simp, any thoughts?
Basically the same as what you said. That's
Okay.
pretty much what I was thinking as well.
I guess I'm look more evilish, devilish way. I would think, what if in the future Celeste 2 comes out and Celeste 2 says, okay, TGH, we want you to submit this game. And Celeste comes on their Twitter, says, okay, we're submitting this to GDQ and TGH has got to run it for us. And like, there's got to be some kind of line there, right? That it could be kind of promotion-ish, right? If that starts happening, you know what I mean?
I think GDQ's their goal, they want to raise money for charity. They want to raise as much money as they can in that 7-day period, regardless of what happens. And so when they choose submissions, that's that's all they want is to pick what is going to generate them the most donations for that week. And so, you know, as far as like you asked, is it going to be automatically in? Grand Pooh Bear said no. That's because, you know, it's obviously not guaranteed, but it's probably got a really good chance of getting in because something like that will generate a ton of donations, and they know that.
Exactly.
True.
Right?
Okay, that's true. That's good points. Just think about the future. Simp, any last thoughts there?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I could see where you're coming from, but I think I'm with the boys on this one. It is a lot like a person just like tweeting it out. I mean, when you do have a big company tweeting it out, like that is a bigger deal. But at the end of the day, it's at the discretion of GDQ, and I think all the parties involved respect that. And
true. And they're not going to do anything stupid. I know that. I know they wouldn't let it get to that point. I was just saying in the evil world, it could happen like that where a company says, like, we'll take the top 5 runners on the leaderboard and we want to submit this game to GDQ. You know what I mean? What if let's pretend Majora's Mask 2 came out and they asked, I want MajinPhil, we'll give you $1,000, Popesquidward, we'll give you $1,000. Come with us and we'll make a submission for you to be a part of GDQ. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's just a possibility. You know what I mean? it just
You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, usually when there's something that's affiliated directly like that, it's a sponsor of the event and it shows up on the screen all the time. Like they promote it and stuff, just like, the arcade, for example, or like any
Mhm.
sponsors, like I forget all their sponsors, but they show them constantly. I think that would be more on that kind of avenue instead of like, overpowering a submission and just kind of filling in a slot for the marathon.
True,
so to
true,
say.
I guess I'm saying I think companies are not taking advantage of the possibilities they have if they, because you can still wear your esports jerseys, right? MajinPhil, you have to wear it when you go, right?
Yeah, well, I don't have to, but I wear it if the CLG, for example, helped me get to the event. Then yeah, I would you rep them because they did that for me. But like,
Right.
It has nothing to do with GDQ at all.
In an evil world, there could be a time when not MajinPhil, but someone else like Roll Coast there, Simp's up there, and he goes, "All right, guys, I'm gonna run 64. I want to thank Pepsi for driving me here. I want to thank Hori for making these controllers." Like that could, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like that is something that right now is possible, and not against the rules. So there's a big audience.
I agree with like what you're saying. I mean, it could happen. For sure.
But GDQ won't do that. I guess I'm too greedy myself to think about the possibilities there. But all right, guys, enough of this topic. That's it. Simp, last words. Close this thing out. Beautiful talk here today.
It has been a gorgeous day. Thank you, Popesquidward and MajinPhil, for joining us today to talk about Majora's Mask affairs. I learned a lot. I will be keeping tabs. Hopefully, maybe we'll see a console split vote. Maybe a movement could be started. # console split MM. Yes. I don't know. But thank you. Thank you for joining me, and thank you all, as always, for being an absolutely wonderful host. And I hope that you guys have a great day, night.
Yeah.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us on, guys.
Thanks, Alt.